Chapter 2. This is a test. I learned how to write transcripts like that from my job at the radio station. It was a job I got because I went to my first piano lesson. Or maybe I should say because I didn't go to my first piano lesson. I was standing on Mrs. Crumple's front porch on Friday afternoon, just about to knock, when I heard someone calling me from across the street. "Benny, can you do me a favor?" It was Myron Casey, a floppy-haired hippie friend of Dad's who owned an electronics shop. Myron's dog Ringo, an Australian shepherd, was at his side as usual. "Hey, Myron," I said, relieved to have an excuse to be late for my first piano lesson. "What do you need?" Myron wanted me to run down to the Mexican restaurant a block away and ask Carmen, the owner, to turn her radio to 88.1 on the FM dial. "And then what should I do?" I said. "Just stay there and listen," Myron directed. So I did. At first, Carmen resisted. "Radio?" she asked. "I don't know if I have one. We play cassette tapes here." "Can you look?" I said. "It's for Myron." "Aye," Carmen sighed dramatically. 2 minutes later, she was pulling a dusty radio off a kitchen shelf and plugging it in. I'd never been in the kitchen of Carmen's casita. It smelled like tortilla chips mixed with pine sol. "Now what?" she asked, clearly unhappy with this chore. "Myron wants us to tune the dial to 88.1, I said. As soon as we did, we heard an ear-splitting noise followed by an announcement. "This is a test. For the next 60 seconds, this station will conduct a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test." There was a high humming sound, and then we heard Myron's voice. "Benny, can you hear me? Benny, Carmen? Can you hear me down there in the restaurant?" "What in the world?" Carmen said, staring at the radio. "Myron, can you hear me? Hello?" "I don't think he can hear you," I said. "It's a radio, not a phone." But Carmen wasn't listening to me. She was too busy talking to the radio. Myron, say something." 2 minutes later, Myron was running through the kitchen door. "Did it work?" he asked, short of breath. "Could you hear me?" "Yeah," I said. "Where were you?" "At my new radio station," Myron replied. "KZ88. Just like my name, Casey. Isn't this great? I've always said this town needs a radio station." "Why do we need a radio station in Dennis Acres?" Carmen asked. She was still looking at the radio like someone had pulled a trick on her. "So you can advertise," Myron explained. "Let people know what you're cooking. Tell folks about the daily specials." "The special's always the same," Carmen said. 2 burritos, beans, rice, chips, and salsa. $2. "I know," said Myron, "but now you can mix it up." "Why would I want to mix it up?" Carmen demanded. Her hands were now in fists on her hips. "Okay, so maybe you don't want to mix it up," Myron conceded, "but surely you want to hear the local news and weather." "The weather?" Carmen said, her voice rising. "It's January. It's cold. And news? There's no news in a town of 54 people. Or 53, I should say, now that Nola's left Calvin again. But that's not news anyway, because it happens all the time, and everybody already knows it anyway." "Oh." Carmen looked at me and clapped her hand over her mouth. "Benny," she said, her hand sliding down to her chin. "I'm sorry, I forget she's your mama." "It's okay," I said. "She'll come back," Carmen said, gently petting my cheek. "She always comes back after a day or two. You know this, yes?" "Yeah," I lied. I wasn't sure if Mom was coming back this time or not. "Hurricane Nola," Myron said, smiling. "That's what I call your mom. She's a hot and spicy Cajun." "She's from New Orleans," I said. "That's how she got her name. The N and the O are for New Orleans. The L and the A are for Louisiana." "Now this I did not know," Carmen said. "See, Myron, this is something you could put on the radio. Tell us how people got their names." I winced at the thought of anyone asking how I got my name. Nobody except my parents knew that my real name was Beignet. I was named after the deep-fried donuts Mom grew up eating in New Orleans. They're called beignets, pronounced beignets. But this was not the kind of news I was eager to have broadcast in my small town. "I remember the first year Nola lived here," Myron was telling Carmen. "She killed a wolf spider with a shotgun, saw it on her porch, and shot it dead, just like that." "Mom doesn't like spiders," I said. "Or messy husbands," I thought. Carmen was nodding her head in approval. "These are the stories you can tell on your radio station, Myron. I don't even know how Dennis Acres got its name. Tell us those things and then play music. I have some mariachi cassette tapes you can borrow." Just then Ringo came blasting through the kitchen door. His mouth was full of tortilla chips. "Get that dog out of my kitchen!" Carmen yelled. We're going, Myron said, trying to catch Ringo by the bandana he wore instead of a collar. "Thanks for letting me test out the emergency signal. That will be a lifesaver if we ever have a hurricane or a—" "Get out!" Carmen shouted as Ringo proceeded to casually jog around the kitchen, sniffing every corner and smiling. "Besides, we don't have hurricanes in Missouri." "You're right," Myron said. He was having a tough time catching Ringo. "I'll concentrate on music instead, and maybe a feature on how people got their names. As you can probably guess, Ringo here got his name from—" "I don't care!" Carmen hollered at the top of her lungs. "Get that dog out of my kitchen!" By the time we were on the sidewalk, Myron and Ringo were both panting. "Carmen's temper is almost as bad as your mom's," Myron said. He was retying the bandana around Ringo's neck. "Almost," I said. "She'll come back," Myron added quietly. "When pigs fly," I said. Myron laughed. "You sound more like your dad every day. Come on, I want to show you my new radio station."